Blood of Zeus, Season 2, May 10th. And we're so happy to have back the creators and writers of the show, Charlie and Vlas Parlapanides, as well as the incredible cast. So we have a lot of them here. We've got Derek Phillips as the star, Heron. Well, everybody, the whole show, the whole cast, it's an ensemble cast, but Derek is our hero. Elias Tufix, I'm sorry, I apologize about some of the pronunciation, is Seraphim. Claudia Christian is Hera. They're all back again for another interview. I talked to you guys about season 1. We had a fabulous time. And then we're also joined by new season 2 cast member, Sissy Jones as Demeter. And while he was in season 1, this time his role is front and center, Fred Tatasciore as Hades. Welcome, everybody.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Grace. We really appreciate
having us.
Oh, my pleasure.
8 out of 10 of pronunciation.
I tried.
Butchered Elias's name, but that's okay.
You guys really ran me through the gauntlet. I felt like I was in the show.
A rough one.
There's some tough names in this show. I mean, there are. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, as if it wasn't popular before, adult animation on streaming is really blowing up. I mean, since your first season, Netflix alone has debuted Arcane, and then, of course, Blue Eye Samurai. For all of you, how does it feel to be releasing season 2 at this moment?
I'll go ahead and say that, yeah, it seems like we've been working on it for a very long time, which we have. I mean, the show was almost immediately picked up for a second season. I think that Netflix picked it up 10 days after the first episode came out, and that was almost 4 years ago, guys.
Yeah, 3.5 years ago.
But
we
we've been
joke
working
we're
on
like
it.
the Olympics. We come back every 4 years.
Yeah,
hopefully that won't happen again.
kind of what it feels like. But I mean, we've been working on it forever, so it just I think for all of us, we're just excited that we're finally going to get an audience and have an audience have an opportunity to see all the hard work that everyone's put in.
And just so people understand, Grace, the show got picked up. But remember, this 2020, that's like the height of COVID, and all live action production stopped. And everyone jumped into animation, so much so that there was no studios available. The pipelines were all full. Like even Powerhouse was getting calls from different networks saying, hey, we have these like 10 scripted episodes that were supposed to be live action. Can you animate them? And so it just took us time to figure out, where we could get the animation done. That was part of the delay, believe it or not. All these other shows that now have come out before us, those were the only things moving forward during that time. I know 2020, 2021 seems like a long time ago, and it was, but that was part of the delay, believe it or not. COVID definitely had an impact in season 2.
I've seen the new episodes, and the transition is seamless. You'd never know that you have a new animation house.
Thank you. Thank you. We're glad. That's a lot of hard work by a lot of talented people.
Yeah.
And just also one thing they wanted to add is that there won't be a huge, amount of time for God willing a season 3. If God willing, we get the eyeballs, there will be a season 3 probably in about a year. So it won't be another.
I believe you mean God's willing. It was right there.
It was.
Just had to take it.
Sorry.
I love it.
True. You're all gods, actually. Or demigods.
Demigod. I mean, but who's counting?
Your words, not mine.
Thank goddess.
Does anybody else want to
That's
tackle this question before I move on to the next one?
I mean, listen, I have kids. We watch a lot of animation in my house. I love animation, but there's something so beautiful and visceral about the show. Even, watching season 1 long before I knew I was going to be a part of season 2, we would watch it at night after my kids went to bed, and I called Elias and I was like, oh my God, you're incredible in this show. It's so good. The story is incredible. And watching it, the animation is beautiful. The writing is beautiful, and understanding the Greek, obviously the Greek mythology, but the little nuggets that are kind of planted for people who actually know Greek mythology to a T, which is not me. I've been learning. But it's amazing. It's so beautiful.
You said you called up Elias. Do you guys all know each other even before the show?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Elias and I worked on Starfield together for 8 years. And Fred and I have worked on multiple projects together.
That's
Claudia,
true.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we've shared credits somewhere. And
Elias
Derek,
is,
same.
you
It's
know,
just
I'm in
the way of it.
Starfield, but I never got to work with
Oh,
anybody.
there you are.
Yeah,
well,
I'm
we
in
get to
all.
now. It's so great.
That's
But
right.
just to add on to that, just to see new, you know, breath into this Greek mythology and to share that with everybody, with an audience, is really an honor. It's such an interesting thing to be able to be part of that. And I didn't realize just until I saw the first season just the depth and the enormity of what they're doing, what everyone's doing with this. So yeah, it's a huge.
And that's the crazy thing too about the second season is that it seems even bigger, to be honest with you. I mean,
almost definitely.
there's more locations, there's more gods, it's just a bigger story overall. I was just kind of blown away by all the different environments and all the different settings that we get to see all these characters in. You know, the first season you're pretty much, you've got Olympus and you've got this village where Heron grows up, and in this we're in Hades, we're in Olympus, we're in, I mean, all over the place. Some really, really cool locations and some really just. I was talking to Charlie and Vlas and Elias a couple weeks back about this idea that there's like a judgment scene at one point in time, and not to give anything away, but I'm reading it on paper and I've got, you know, like my Judge Judy is what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking of it being like this massive, beautiful. I mean, just the judgment scene alone is like, dude, that is so badass. Like, it's not how I imagined it because I'm not an animator. So these guys are just, they really brought their A game this year.
Most
Well,
definitely.
one of the
Or
coolest
years.
things. Yeah.
I was just going to say, or years, you know, it's been years, but yeah.
Well, one of the coolest things about season 2 is the realization of the underworld, right? Like, and also the powers of Hades and his henchmen. I loved the teleporting. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
So Fred, and a number of you actually visit the underworld this season. What did you think of this new world that was built for you?
Well, one of the things that really comes to my mind is just how much Hades does not like Hades. In other words, he's bound to it for reasons, you know, you see in the series, and he hates to see the suffering of others, actually. And it's something that never really occurred to me. I mean, I never thought of Hades as an evil person or a evil god or anything, but that is his realm, and he has to deal with judgment and suffering. And
That's
that might have
incredible.
been great.
You just made me realize that it's like hell for him.
It is hell for him. It is. It's an awful, and he talks about that. It's not a really great place to be. And he would love to be free of it. And of course, who does he fall in love with? Is the bringer of love and flowers and light, you know? How perfect. With a very difficult mother-in-law. We'll get into that later. But
Stay away from her, dude.
wonderful,
Stay away.
though. You're so great. But really what it is it, and it makes sense. And he would love life, you know, and of course, wouldn't death love life, right? So it's kind of this wonderful dichotomy. Strangely, he has a great humanity to him that I had to try to discover, you know, and also seeing, by the way, let's just talk about Hades itself. Wow. Back to Elias's point or to Derek's point. Holy, you know, that got into psychedelic. I mean, it's incredible. The lost spirits and the realms and the judges and how, you know, I'm not all in charge. Everyone has a different power. Each judge, it's an extreme hierarchy. It's very corporate. You know, and it's
The
like
judgment room was like a conference room some way.
it is. It's very interesting. It's like, you know, there's Judge Judy. Judge Judy's got some bosses, and you know, and it's to, you know, it's for balance, and we realize in the whole point of this, even the show, it's like even Zeus is on trial. You know, so it's like nobody escapes this. You know, and it's a very interesting dimension and part of life. I just love the new take on it. But the big part for me personally as Hades was just realizing the suffering he has and how it's changed him physically, mentally, spiritually. He is just destroyed.
It's shown beautifully through your performance and the animation.
Oh,
You know, we're talking a lot about the judgment scenes, and you know, at the end, it's not a spoiler because at the end of season 1, Zeus is killed, so he might get judged. And, you know, Claudia, without any spoilers, I think that scene really beautifully shows the complex relationship between Hera and Zeus. So how did you like that scene and Hera's really amazing dialogue there?
Without giving any spoilers, I'm so thrilled that this season you can see the empathy and the reality behind her choices and her strength of character, which has gone from being this, a lot of people perceive it as a jealousy or just a one, that's how she was sort of confined. But when you see the true love between the two of them, and also the choice that she makes, it's redemption. It's for me, it was extremely satisfying when I was reading the script saying, wow, okay, now we see what I perceive as the real Hera. Of course, a very complex, multicolored character that has deep, deep emotions and deep, deep love for her family and deep love for Zeus. And I think that the heart in the brothers when they write is so palpable. That's the thing, is you do, Fred talks about a spiritual change. All of the characters are coming to realizations and growing. They're fallible, yes, but they're also heading toward redemption in some way, shape, or form, which is so beautiful and to me feels more human than godlike. So I think that's all in the writing, clearly.
And your performance, like
Yeah.
season 1 to season 2, just knocked me off my feet. Brava. Just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Truly.
And Grace, can we give a little shout out though to this cast? And we say it to them all the time. We are so lucky. We have such an incredibly talented cast. And in season 1, because it was pre-COVID, they recorded together. Season 2, they were all working in a vacuum. There's no other actor voice they're working off of. They're just reading their lines on their own. And then and they're just so damn good. They're reacting off of nothing. And that's why for us, for Vlas and I, it's always a joy when we're recording. Oh, great. Today we have Claudia. Today we have, Fred. We have Derek today, Elias, but they're all recording separately. They're not. Fred did ask for the Hades and Persephone scene if they could get on Zoom together,
And that
because
actually,
he felt that was important, and he can speak to that. But otherwise, like, Claudia's just doing this on air against no one, and we're like, damn, she's so good.
I want to second that, and I'm looking at everyone here as the actors, and we were blown away by everyone's audition. Sissy, your audition, we were like, whoa, like everyone in the room, and everyone, Claudia, Derek, Elias, Fred, obviously, we were blown away by the auditions. And then they came in, and my goodness, we talk about bringing emotional truth to the work, and all of these actors did that. They embraced that, and they brought the characters to life. And I don't know how they do it, because we always treated the show like a movie, more or less, meaning that we wanted it to be very cinematic, and we wanted the performances to be to have emotional truth. But you somehow have to project that through your voice. So you have to maintain that emotional truth and get it through your voice. And they all did it. I mean, it is such a pleasure to see them bring the characters to life and to see them work. It just elevates the material. It really does.
And we can't take credit for it. It's our casting director, Meredith Lane. And I will tell you, to a T, we would, one of the first steps in animation, you finish the scripts. Once they're approved, Meredith, the casting director, reads them. And the first step is to record the voices and cast up the actors. And whenever she would say, you know who you should consider for this part, she said that for every one of the people on this Zoom. Like, all right, well, who do you think for Hera? Well, we should really look at Claudia. And then we're like, okay, and then she would get all the auditions in, and sure enough, it would be Claudia. Sure enough, it would be Sissy. She recommended everyone on this Zoom. And she voiced, casts and directs X-Men 97, Arcane. She does all Castlevania, our show. She is just a gold. Can't give enough love to Meredith.
Yeah, me.
Hold on, I'm just gonna write down to send her like all the chocolate and flowers.
Also, I want to get Elias in here. So the thing is that, without giving away stuff again, no spoilers, but Heron gets an upgrade. All right. But Seraphim kind of goes back to basics. So you guys continue to play two different sides of the same coin. So how would you guys, again, without spoilers, talk about the evolution of your characters and your relationship this season? What do you think, Elias?
Oh man, it's hard to talk about without spoilers, but yeah, he does. Yeah, it's hard to talk about without spoilers. But look, my favorite thing
You
about
can give a very slight spoiler.
Yeah,
yeah,
you can mention the two
the
voices there,
redemption arc.
Elias, if you want.
What's that?
You can mention the two voices that you had to use.
Can I? I don't know if I can. So okay, yeah, okay. It's a slight spoiler, but at some point, uh, so at some point he is transformed back to his old self, his old human self, before he becomes the giant demigod, not really demigod, but and so one of my favorite things, just from a performance standpoint, was I got to Seraphim is very kind of stoic and gravelly and grumbly, and the more human Seraphim was more very much closer to just me, the way I talk naturally, which yes, I admit is not that much of a difference, but it was of a difference that it was, and also the playing it without giving it away, because at one point, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but at one point he does talk to Heron, and Heron doesn't know who he is, and they're having this conversation as just two normal people, and to be able to play that but still kind of hide it, that from just an acting standpoint was a lot of fun. But Seraphim this season, what I love about it is the redemption arc. Even though he doesn't quite get redemption, again, I don't want to give too much away, but it is an arc. He does say, "I'm not the person I was," when he's starting to be kind of judged harshly.
And everybody already loved him. All the fans did in season 1.
Yeah, but he
He's
was
already
murdered.
forgiven you.
I mean, yeah, they liked him because he's cool, but he's a murderer.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen worse. So Derek, what did you think being on the other side of that scene?
Well, I think that's the fun thing about Heron this time around, is that Heron is coming into this power that he didn't know that he had. And it's this, idea of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And Heron is very wary of it, and wary of taking over that role that Zeus had. Even though there are people fighting for him to have that position, he's not wanting that. So it's just a process of maturity, I think, for Heron in a lot of respects. As Claudia said earlier, all these characters are trying to find themselves. All these characters are growing throughout this series, and that's one of the fun things about playing this guy, is that when we meet him, he's this naive young, kind of farmer kid who hasn't seen much of the world, and now he's seen a lot of the world, and it's definitely changing him. Yeah.
Well, Sissy, everybody, like everyone growing up loves Greek mythology, and everyone knows the story of Hades and Persephone. Persephone, right? Persephone. Oh, I'm a little rusty on the Greek mythology. All right. But the thing is that you guys added a lot to the story. This is not your childhood Demeter. What did you think of the more complex aspects that were added to this goddess?
I loved it with my entire soul. And I had known the story of Demeter, that she's angry that Persephone goes to live with Hades. So the mythology of it all, and please correct me for God's sake if I'm wrong. She makes a deal essentially with Persephone that Persephone can spend 6 months in Hades with her love, her family, but then she has to come back and spend 6 months on Earth, and thus you have winter when she's in Hades and everything freezes over and nothing grows, and then springtime and summer when she comes back and the blooms begin to come, and flowers and trees and life. And so that was the explanation for the
Also, it's a
wheel of
straight
the year.
kidnapping. It's a straight kidnapping in the original mythology.
Well, I think there
case.
could be 1,000. I think there could be 1,000 interpretations, which is what's so cool about Greek mythology, right? Like there's the kidnapping aspect, or it's the like she kind of fell in love and she wanted to see what would happen here. We could go into all the theories about Medusa. You know what I mean? Like there's a ton of different ways to interpret so many different stories. But with Demeter, also not going into spoiler territory. We get to have some fun. Fred and I get to have a lot of fun, and it was just joyous.
That's the thing that I've really. Oh, sorry.
Loved it. Nope.
I was just going to say that's one of the things that I think the brothers do so well, Charlie and Vlass, is that I don't know a ton about Greek mythology myself. I mean, probably as much as the next guy. But one of the things that's really cool to me is that the stories that they've told in this, it's like we've got this history of Greek mythology. They're not changing the stories. They're not breaking the stories. They're taking the stories. We already know the story of Demeter. We know the story of Persephone in Hades. And they're saying, well, what if this was actually what happened? What if this was the story? It's almost like somebody else's perspective on the stories, you know? So it's not changing anything per se, but it is adding to it or telling it from a different perspective. Yeah.
Well, Fred, what did you think of your mother-in-law?
Well, again, what's
No
interesting
pressure.
about no pressure, Sissy. You're amazing. And Persephone played by Laura Pulver so brilliantly. A mother who really cares. Let's take that point of view. She really cares for her daughter. All right,
I
and
like that.
she sees him hanging out with a dangerous death guy. You know, like okay, you've fallen in love with death. You know that this is not okay. I'm going to take you away bodily. I need you to be away from this guy. So there is no boundaries, as we found with the gods. There really aren't any healthy boundaries. And it's interesting because even Hades has to be, he's a little let off, you know, like, okay, you know, you have to make your decision. I'm not going to force you into this. It's a very interesting thing. Powerful, wonderful mother, you know, it makes it very difficult for our family. You know, and it's sad. Sad. She needs to be able to let go, but that's the human story, isn't it? You know, she can't let her daughter go. And I think there's a lot to be said to that. And in fact, in general, what I love about this show is that you have points of view that are expressed. Like you were saying, Derek, you know, there's like, you know, we know the stories or we know the myths, but we didn't really get into her reasons and why, and you know, why, what are the consequences? And so I think she's amazing. She's a wonderful, scary mother-in-law.
Well, Elias, you have the
You know what, Grace,
freedom.
too, to be honest, when
Sorry, please go ahead.
What were you going to say, Charlie?
oh, I'm sorry, I froze up for a sec. All I was going to say is that listen, there's certain challenges when you adapt, you know, stories from ancient times, and to
Oh,
say
I'm going to
that
ask you
Hades.
about that in a minute. I'm going to
Okay.
ask you about it in a minute. First, Elias, I wanted to ask you, okay? I'm going to set you up beautifully, Charlie and Vlad. You're going to love it. But Elias, I wanted to ask you, you have the freedom of, also you too, Derek, you know, you guys aren't playing characters from Greek mythology.
Mhm.
You know, your original characters messing around in this world.
Yeah,
So how is it, you know, defining your own space and, you know, being able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's they're so well written. I know this is a cliche, like the writers praise the actors and the actors go back and praise the writers, but it's a cliche. Something's a cliche because it's true.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading through the season and just going, yeah, there's not much I would change here. Like there were discussions, you know, of minor little words here and there, but for the most part, man, these guys knocked it out the park. So I just love to jump in and tackle it, whether they're based on a real or mythological character or not, or an original character. It was you know, Seraphim is. Let me put it this way. What I wanted out of season 2, when I read season 2, I said, this is exactly what I wanted.
Ah, yay.
Yeah.
I remember going, this is what I need. This is what I need. I hope it does this. I hope he's not, you know, cast aside, or well, he's dead. So maybe he's not even going to be in season 2. And then, but if he is, and then if he is, this is what I would like. And it was like almost to pretty much to a T of what I would have done if I were, you know, writing the character. So yeah, I was happy.
I'm a little confused here. Are you saying that Elias has final cut? Is that? I mean, none of us edited any of our dialogue. Did you? Did you, Fred?
No, I have no control over any of this.
All right, so
Up a whole can of worms.
so Charlie and Vlad, you guys said that your cast created something out of nothing, but so did you. You wrote things. It was so amazing to watch season 2 because you're these regular modern brothers, but yet it seems like this stuff could have been written in ancient Greece and someone dug it up. But then you layer on top of that very much things that enable it to stand side by side with superhero and video game storytelling today. So how did you pull that off?
Wow, that's a loaded
Very much.
question. My goodness, you know, part of it
I
is
agree with it.
thank you. And you know, I think it's an amalgamation of different things. I think it's an amalgamation of you know, where we were, you know, we're sons of immigrants. We're Greek Americans, so we were familiar with the Greek mythological tales at a very young age. And I think that had a part in it. And then yeah, you are influenced by your environment, you know. And it's crazy because, you know, someone asked us like, what were some of the influences? And obviously it's some of the Spielberg movies, no doubt about it. We always wanted to tell a story that is an escapist type story where you're just really entertained and you can forget about your problems for a little while. But it also depicts some of the violence, and it was a violent time and it was a violent world. So there's some of Martin Scorsese in there. We love stories about families. We've always been, whether it's The Godfather, whether it's Goodfellas, whether, you know, even to a certain extent, E.T., there's a dysfunction in the family, and there's something that the family is dealing with, and the interpersonal relationships. And so it starts from what Sorkin, you know, does, and he says, okay, what do these characters want? And for Charlie and I, we don't see characters necessarily as evil, or we see them as, you know, this is what they want, and we have to understand why they want it. And as they go about trying to get what they want, that defines their character, and it pits them against all these other characters. And you know, it's been such a joy, you know, to work in this sandbox, because we just had, you know, I would say amazing clay to work with. The Greek mythological tales have endured all these years for a reason. And I think they put a mirror up to all of us, because the Greek gods were anthropomorphic gods, which means that they had human qualities. And it's those human characteristics and flaws. And I think that makes them very relatable. Because it's also exaggerated because they're gods. And so I'm just rambling. Charlie, you can.
Yeah, well, Voss kind of summed it up. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. It's you know, our culture is an abundance of riches, and you know, as writers, you know, we've read all different kinds of mythologies, and you know, obviously we're incredibly biased, but we're like, what a rich and amazing world. And you know, to be honest, everything we do is either an archetype or something we're pulling from a different part of Greek mythology. Even, you know, Derek and Elias, the two brothers, that idea comes from Hercules. Like, you know, this is very much a deconstruction of the Hercules stories. Him and Ephocles, his brother, you know, they were born, but they were half brothers. You know, Ephocles was the son of the king. You know, Hercules was the son of Zeus. Hera was trying to kill, you know, Hercules because she was upset. And we always thought it was kind of cool that they went to go on adventures with Jason and the Argonauts, and they both went on the Argo. And we said, well, instead of them being allies, couldn't it be cool if they were adversaries? And they didn't know that they were brothers. And we go a little Oedipus Rex. And while, you know, Elias Seraphim doesn't sleep with his mother, he kills his mother instead of killing his father. So even that, and then this idea of that, you know, a demigod will save both, you know, heaven and earth, that's straight from the Hercules story. So again, it's this abundance of riches, and everything we take, though, too, you're kind of adapting what existed. You mentioned, you know, Hades kidnapped Persephone. That's the PG version of it, because the actual stories are even worse than that. But because, you know, Hera and Zeus had such a toxic relationship in season one, we wanted to have a couple that really loved each other and were more like the Underwoods in, you know, House of Cards, where they work together and they support each other. And so, you know, it all evolves from that. And then, you know, Demeter, like, if anyone's Greek or has a friend that's Greek, they know some Greek mothers can be overly protective and overly codependent with their kids. And
sir, come on.
Yeah. you know,
I just want to
Perfect,
add though,
Jesse.
I want to add though, if you are familiar with the mythological tales, you can appreciate the show because as you say, okay, there is that mythological tale where, you know, Persephone, you know, supposedly was kidnapped. Well, how about, you know, our iteration of that or our version of that is like, well, what if it came from, you know, Demeter because she was so mad at Hades, she created a lie. So that
Yeah.
thing that you know, that was actually a lie, you know.
Yeah, I
so
loved that.
you can appreciate it if you don't know the mythological tales, and you can also appreciate it if you do know the mythological tales. We enjoyed that, and I think people that are familiar with the tales enjoy the show because they're like, oh, they just took this little piece that exists in the mythological tales and they just spun it a little bit. It's what Derek had said before. He said
Yeah,
it really.
it's the Jon Snow, Robert Baratheon thing. From Robert Baratheon's mouth, you know, what's her name was kidnapped. I can't
exactly.
remember. I'm a little rusty on my Game of
His
Thrones references.
sister.
but
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you had said something earlier, Grace, that I thought was really interesting about how how does this fit in with like superhero culture? And the thing that I found really fascinating about it to me, who doesn't know a ton about Greek mythology, but has learned a lot in the process of working on this, it's like these guys were the original superheroes, but
Yeah.
they're flawed superheroes. So it's almost like the boys in some respects, you know, like you're getting to see all these flaws that all these people have. And one of the things that I think the animators have done such a wonderful job on is that true delineation of character between all the gods. When you look at Mars, you go, that's Mars. You know what I mean? And you know who these characters are, the design for each one of them. It's really, really cool what they've done. And you get to see their powers in a way that we've never really seen on camera before. You know, that's something that was really cool for me personally.
Yeah,
And
I
you say
thought it
Mars,
was-
that's the Roman version of Ares. And all, you know, Claudia knows the Roman mythology.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
I'd say it's
No, but
same
it
dude
passed
though.
through multiple, you know, cultures
Yes.
and generations, and here we are digging it up again. You know.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, Mars.
What's interesting to that point though is in this show that you really don't paint any true villains. You know, just for the point where I think, for example, Hades has a point of view on something, and then all of a sudden Hera comes in and explains it and just topples it. You know, or we understand where Demeter's coming from, or you know, like all of a sudden everyone really has their own point of view, their own backstory, and their reasons for doing stuff. I mean, that's you know, Seraphim obviously is the main example, but like you know, that's
Well, I think we can all agree that Ares is a bit of a d-bag, but
okay.
yes, everybody
Ares
else.
is a bit of a jerk.
Yes.
Ares is a bit of a jerk, but it's
reminded me
entitlement.
of
That's entitlement.
Roy Kent.
Bit of a d-bag.
Oh, Roy Kent. He does look like Roy Kent.
It's a little entitlement. That's all
Roy
it
He
is.
kind of acted like him.
Royd
He's
Kent.
where he's there. He's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
The rest of us are having emotional revelations and coming to become, you know, like emotional depth and maybe even growing up a little bit and becoming better people, but not that d-bag. As
Not
you said.
Aries. Yeah.
No, war never wins, really, does it? War. Right.
And you know, Elias said this, and this is acting 101, but kind of the people that the audience sees as the villain or the bad guy, they don't know they're the bad guy. I mean, Elias has played his fair share. And part of what Vlas and I always say is that, you know, especially when you do a series and you have more room, you know, people have seen the white hat hero versus the black hat hero, and they know how that story ends. And so we don't want villains, you know, we want to just have protagonists and antagonists, and we hopefully understand why everyone's doing what they're doing. And then the conflict and how it resolves, that's the surprise, that's the drama. But if it's just straight up like, okay, here's the bad guy, here's the hero. After 100 years of movies and TV, we know what's going to happen, and that's not very rewarding. So
I think that's the thing that's been. Sorry, the thing that was so fascinating to me about the second season is I had no clue where it was going to go from page
A lot
to
of
page.
surprises.
So I'm reading every single page, going, I don't know, am I going to make it out of this alive? You know, I don't know what's going to.
Doesn't always seem that way with Harry.
No,
I gotta say.
And these guys are cold-blooded, man. They'll kill anybody.
So finally, the last question I have, it's for all of you, and we'll start with you, Claudia. What are you the most excited for audiences to experience with season 2?
I mean, I think that for me, I keep saying the same thing, but it's the emotional involvement. It's evolving as a character, seeing the more human characteristics, to have some sort of center, a base of where all of the anger, all of the retribution, all of the judgment, everything comes from. I think that that's what I'm excited about personally for Hera's journey. This felt like, okay, now you understand her a lot more. You see both sides to this character, but I think in general for the fans, they're going to really dig the story. And as everyone was saying, the graphics, it's so beautiful. It's everything, it's funny because as I was watching it, I thought, okay, the music, wow, the animation, oh, wow, the performances. And it was just one level. And then, as you said, the locations, as if we're really on location. But seriously, I mean, they're stunning. They're stunning, and it's exciting. And also, as Derek said, I didn't really know where it was going either. So I think what fans love about Blood of Zeus and what the feedback that I've been receiving is that it's kind of addicting. And I think that season 2 is definitely right up there with I think it actually goes further than season 1, but I'm biased. I think it is actually more addicting than season 1. That's my take.
I think what Claudia said is right on. I mean, there's something really exciting. I mean, all of us work in the film and television and voiceover world. We're fairly familiar at this point with stories, and most of us, I think, when we go to the movies, we're like, I know where this is going. I know where this is going. You know the ending halfway through the film, and this is one of those where I don't know from page to page what is going to happen to my character, what's going to happen to every one of these characters in this. It's definitely a roller coaster ride.
Sissy?
I think what fans are going to get out of this is a real hunger for seasons 3, 4, and 5. No, I mean, you know what I love, truly, what I love is that animation gets a lot of shade. Looking at you, Oscars. But the fact that this is a animated show that I got teary-eyed multiple times, and that you really care about these drawn characters and their arcs. I mean, the arcs that the characters go through in this season is a thing of beauty. And the way that they're drawn, the way that they're written, the way that they're performed are just masterclass all the way through.
Elias?
Yeah, for me, when I was watching it, I was looking at it from different points of view. Of course, one of them was just as an actor, and I know that Charlie and Vaz have already said this, but it's true, man. Like the performances to a person. Sissy and I were talking about this the other day, where this is a true story. I was watching one of the episodes. This is true. This actually happened. I went to the washroom. I came back. I picked up my phone and said, I'm going to text Sissy for how good to talk about how good she is in a particular scene. And on my phone, it said, "You are so good in this scene," from Sissy.
No lies. No lies. He was like, oh my God, I was literally texting you. And I was like, no, shut up. You're so good here.
Aw,
So
that's so
it really
awesome.
is that for me, I look at it from an actor's point of view, and I just like, man, everybody is so good. And like I gotta say, I have a fun, friendly, antagonistic relationship with Derek because we play our characters. But you steal this season, man. You are so like, there are moments where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. So you know it's good if I'm getting
That's crazy because I feel that way about every single time I watched you guys in anything. Like seriously.
really
And I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's ass here. That's the God's honest truth. But that's what's fun. I remember being in a play years and years ago and watching all these other actors going, man, I can't do that. I can't do that. And I was working with this guy, Jefferson Mays, who's a Tony Award winner. And Jefferson goes, but I can't do what you do. And so that's one of the things. It's like, I can't sit here to use like a football reference. If I was a wide receiver and imagine what it would be like to be an O-lineman, I can't do that. But to watch everyone just excel in all their different roles and all their different parts, it's really fun to watch. And I sit there, I look at Fred and I go, I can't do what Fred's doing. Not in a million years.
Well, how about you, Fred? What are you excited for
You
people
can.
to see?
You all, again, I agree with you, all of you. I'm like, yes, I'm blown away by each and every one of you. I mean, it's true. And that's not blowing smoke either. Again, just to Claudia's point, the unfolding of humanity, what I'm looking forward to is people seeing the unfolding of the humanity within these deities in nature. And it's a true ride. It is addicting. It's sonic, it's visual, it's theatrical. It is such a wonderful ride. And I really, even though if you know the mythologies, you really don't know where this is going.
Mm-mm.
And it's just so beautiful. So I'm very excited to share this with everybody, you know, truly.
I've told
Carl-
this story before, Grace. Sorry, I've told this story before, but when I auditioned for this, I actually auditioned for Seraphim and I auditioned for Heron. And I felt really, really good about my Seraphim audition. I was like, I feel like I nailed that. And they said, hey, can you stick around? We've got one more guy that we want to bring in. We're going to have him read for Seraphim and you read for Heron. And the guy that they brought in was Elias. And Elias read his Seraphim lines. And I went, oh, shit. I'm definitely not going to book Seraphim now. And now I'm sitting here going, I came into this thinking I could hand pick either one of these jobs. And then I'm sitting there going, am I going to get anything? And so I was so thankful that I got Heron. But Elias, going back to what we were saying earlier, just hit it out of the park there.
Aw.
But yeah.
Truly.
Charlie and Vlad, bring us home.
You know,
wanna go
the one
first,
thing I
Luke?
will say in Derek's defense, his Seraphim audition was awesome, but we didn't have the part of Heron cast because he is kind of a harder, he's the Luke Skywalker, a little more down the middle. It's maybe, you know, it's not as easy part to play. And I remember it was like Thanksgiving weekend, and Voss and I were like, what are we going to do? We're just texting each other back and forth. And I said, listen, we want Heron's our lead. We need someone with strength. And Derek's Seraphim audition was very strong. And I said, what if we slide over Derek? And Meredith says there's this Greek guy with an interesting voice. Let's try him as Seraphim. And then when we heard the audition, when she finally sent it over, because you were in the later cluster of auditions, Elias, and we're like,
Really?
great, like this is great. And I remember Sean saying, like, yeah, it sounds like he has a torn vocal cord. This is perfect for the guy who's going to play the demon. And so we'll just slide Derek over here, and Elias can play Seraphim. And thank God it worked out. But I think Derek's part is very hard to play. And the last thing I'll say is that the few critics that have seen the show and that have that we've communicated with, they all love Hades. And I know everyone to a T. I get this message multiple times on social media. Don't make Hades the devil. Don't make him a bad guy. And I'm like, trust me, I think we're good. I think you're going to like what we did with Hades. Like, he's really cool. And so I just hope people are happy with that.
I mean,
Oh,
look at that face. How can you not love him?
Oh, you're so
Put
kind.
him.
Back at you.
I'm
Blast
just really
off.
Honor to
excited.
play. I had no idea too that going into this, like I knew it was Hades, I knew who Hades was, but I didn't realize the deep dive we were going to do. So I'm really honored and to be able to do this with you guys. It's
Flash,
just-
did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, I second what everyone said. I mean, the performances, we're just so proud of them, and we just have such a talented cast. And just to see them bring the characters to life. One of the things, you know, in addition to that I'm most excited about, it was something that I didn't even write. Charlie wrote this, and I remember he pitched this to me, and I'm like, I don't know if this works, bro, but it's about forgiveness. There's that speech about forgiveness. And I love how the show culminates to that moment, and culminates that moment in an organic way, and then shares that bit about forgiveness and that the gods have to grasp that concept. And if they don't, it'll bring about their demise. And I just love that. Honestly, it's one of probably the out of everything we've written, it's probably my favorite thing. And I feel it's really timely. And I believe in that. I believe that we all need to forgive each other, and that without that, you know, it's a really scary place. And I feel like the world can use some of that. And I think it's very timely. And I'm excited to share that with the world. Just how important it is for us to forgive each other. And that's the way we can truly move on and better our lives. So that's what I'm most excited to share with the world.
The
Oh,
one
that's
thing I'll
awesome.
add, Grace, the one last thing almost is that the initial idea for Blood of Zeus in 5 seasons, in Greek mythology, there's no kind of end time story. There's no Armageddon or Ragnarok like in Norse mythology. And Vlas and I always thought, like, well, what if we took this Hercules story and it culminates in these 5 seasons to seeing what happened to the gods and the end of the gods and this end time in Greek mythology. But now that we've been working with everyone for so long, I don't think we have the heart to do it, to see like why the gods don't exist anymore. So we'll see what happens.
It's
We
like,
might have
go to
tweak
the
that, but,
underworld. You just put them all down there with
It's a
Hades.
party.
Well,
It's
we
a party.
we have something that's going to address that point, because you don't want to lose stakes. And this is the one last thing. We want everyone to watch Just a couple things. We want to thank our fans. We've had the best fans in the world.
Thank you.
This show doesn't exist without our fans, and we want to thank them. And we hope that they'll tune in, because also if we get the viewership, if we get the eyeballs necessary, Netflix will greenlight our Medusa show, and we have a great way into that story. And Medusa show, that would be epic, and you'd see a lot of the gods that you love here in that show.
And you
So
need
please
people to watch it early on, right? Like, don't put off Blood of Zeus season 2. Watch it
10
now.
days.
First
One.
day, first 10 days, I literally was going through emails from our launch, and we got an email 5:57 the first day of release, and like everything's looking good. And I was like, oh my God. Like when I read that now, I'm like, the first day they already have like a sense of how we're doing. It really put a little fear in my heart, to be honest. So please, like, just let it run on your computer. If you want to see the show and you're busy that day, just play it. Just play it.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. Well, thank you all for your time, and congratulations on a phenomenal season 2, and fingers crossed for your spinoff and more seasons so you can complete your story.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Thank you.